Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the press conference of our group, the Socialists and Democrats group, in this House. I will hand over to our group president, Iratxe García Perez, who will, like usual, give her introduction, and then there will be time for your questions, and we hope, of course, that we can answer all of them. So, Iratxe, you have the floor.
Gracias y buenos días.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is the usual press briefing that we have every plenary week, and the aim of this press conference is to have a look at the plenary agenda and talk about the priority points for our political group. But of course, as I'm sure you'll understand, at this juncture, given the exceptional circumstances, I will focus on what's been happening since last Friday with the opening of the law enforcement and judicial investigations into an alleged case of corruption within the European institutions and the Parliament more in particular. So I will make an opening statement. I'll try and be brief to ensure that I can then answer any questions you may have. My group and myself are shocked at this corruption case. Now, the inquiry is still underway, and our group is cooperating fully with the justice system to get to the bottom of the affair and to ensure that those guilty receive the appropriate sentence. Our commitment to transparency has always been and will always be absolute. We have a commitment to serve European citizens in a transparent matter, and our behaviour cannot be stained by the criminal behaviour of some certain individuals. We too are a prejudiced part of this case. I won't speak at length. I want to leave time for your questions, but I would like to give a brief analysis of what's happened over the past few days. When we heard that Vice President Eva Kaili had been caught in the act of a criminal offence, we called for her to be suspended from the Bureau. We also made use of the relevant rules of procedure in the Conference of Presidents to ensure that the Bureau could suspend her. And the Conference of Presidents has just been held, and Rule 21, its application, was voted through unanimously. That will then go on to be ratified in the plenary. With this, she will be suspended. We also asked our Secretary General to undertake an analysis of the files that might have been affected in our group. So let me announce too that under these circumstances we could not keep the point on liberalising visas for Qatar and Kuwait on the agenda. We've also called for a debate. MEPs who are being investigated or MEPs whose assistants are being investigated as part of the proceedings ought to step away from any posts of responsibility that they hold within the Parliament and indeed within the group while those inquiries are still underway. We would like to see a committee of inquiry within the European Parliament be set up in cooperation with the INGA committee. The Socialist Group will be carrying out an internal investigation to contribute to the work of that committee, and we have asked for the Qatari authorities to cooperate fully in the investigation. Were it to be proved that Qatar had tried to undermine European democracy, we want to see sanctions enacted. At a personal level, I'm sure you will understand that my main concern is to protect the image and the credibility of this institution and that of our political group. I'm sure you can understand how disappointed I am, but I want to underscore the work that's done every day by my colleagues within the Socialist and Democrat group and our firm and clear commitment to democracy, to transparency, and to human rights. Corruption is always detestable, all the more so when people accept money in exchange for giving up on defending human rights, workers' rights, and LGBTIQ rights, which are fundamental rights to our political family. So we are absolutely firm on this point. We want to get to the bottom of this. We will go as far as it takes to ensure that this matter is resolved and for people to serve the appropriate sentence in this situation.
Gracias, Iratxe.
Thank you very much, Iratxe.
Questions? Do we have questions in this room? Yes, please. One second, please. Gracias.
Good morning, Pietro Guassamacchia, ANSA, Italian News Agency.
Very simply, we can't help but notice that the amount of Italian passport involved in this story is...
Please wait, please wait.
Sorry, because I was listening in Polish.
No problem.
Can you?
Now you can.
Can I? Yeah, we can't help but notice that the amount of Italian passport involved in this story, it's higher than others. So my simple question is your trust to the Italian delegation compromised?
En tela de juicio, la delegación italiana.
Well, in terms of the Italian delegation, this is a corruption case affecting individuals. Individuals who acted individually in ways that go against all the principles that underpin our political position. But as things stand, we do not wish to cast doubt upon a whole group of people, upon a whole country, upon a whole group. The same firmness that we hold in investigating, in ensuring that we can get to the bottom of this, well, we need to hold on to that firmness when we stick to the presumption of innocence. We don't want to generalize here. This is not a corruption case affecting a whole political group. It's not a corruption case affecting a whole country or indeed a whole delegation. It's a matter of individuals who broke the rules. Individuals who've committed a criminal offence and will have to be responsible and held accountable.
Espinosa del Financial Times.
One second, please. Okay, please.
Javier Espinosa, Financial Times. ¿Tiene indicación de que va?
Javier Espinosa, Financial Times. Do you have any information on other political groups apart from the S&D that have been involved? Do you have more examples of the way Qatar tried to influence the European Parliament, for instance, invitations to parties or receptions in Brussels, events at hotels, or any other proof that may have come out over the past few hours over how Qatar has tried to gain influence with this institution?
Sorry. Con respecto a si hay...
Now, with regard to the possibility of other political groups, as I said, we're going to be cooperating and working with the police and the legal system to ensure that more light can be shed on this matter. But we don't have access to that type of information. They are the ones who are taking action to ensure that there are guarantees where all investigations can be carried out properly. This is information I can't give, and I think that we need to respect and uphold everything that's involved with criminal proceedings. The inquiry needs to be carried out in a safe manner, in a confidential manner in some regards, and nor do I have more information on the other ways Qatar may have attempted to influence the European Parliament. What I can say, on a personal note, is that these are not events that I myself took part in, but I don't know whether this was a widespread practice within the institution. That's why we feel it's very important to set up an inquiry committee within the Parliament to delve into this further, to find out and uncover everything that might have happened in this case, and to see whether decisions need to be made in order to prevent further circumstances of this nature. Of course, we will work fully for that, but all of this has got to do with the internal investigation that will be carried out within the Parliament.
Yes, please.
Anna Wandensky.
Please wait. Wait, please.
Okay. Madam, yesterday when opening the session, the President Roberta Metsola said that she would like to impose a reform to the Parliament to have more transparency rules. And my question to you, do you think it's relevant because there is also fear of more bureaucracy will make work of Parliament slower because for 70 years this Parliament has been exemplary. So is that fair to change the rules, to have more bureaucratic rules because of this corruption incident?
La transparencia es fundamental.
Transparency is key when it comes to winning the trust of citizens in EU institutions. Anything this Parliament can do to improve in terms of transparency will be done to ensure that our citizens can become even more committed with our work at the European Parliament. So I'm fully in favour of increasing transparency measures. This will also lend more credibility to the political work that we do here, and we will do our best to ensure that this does not undermine the pace of our work. But in any event, I think that transparency is a key principle.
Please.
Hola, buenos días. Laura Cerno.
Good morning. Laura Cernoza, FA Agency. 2 questions, Iratxe. Firstly, the Belgian police has carried out 20 searches. How many of these affect MEPs or assistants or other staff of S&D? And secondly, an internal investigation will take place within the S&D group, you said, to look at how all of this came about. Can you say more about this investigation? How will it be carried out? What's the timeline? And can you tell us can you give us your first impressions of what might have gone wrong within the group for a case like this to happen?
Laura, no tengo...
Thank you, Laura. Well, I don't have information about the offices that are currently being searched by the law enforcement authorities. This took place in Brussels. There are some offices that are linked to my political group, but I have no tangible, concrete information. That's information that is in the hands of the Belgian police, and in any event, I wouldn't be able to give you that information. Now, in terms of the internal investigation within the S&D, what might have gone wrong? Well, what went wrong was that there were people who broke the rules of our group. That's what went wrong. Bad practice. There are certain individuals who failed to uphold the fundamental principle of our work, which is that the common interest is always above the individual's interest. That's what went wrong. And we, in good faith, trusted in our colleagues. We trusted that they would stick to the rules. There have always been internal discussions in our group. On a number of files, we've had a range of different positions in many cases. And we always felt that these discussions and these varying positions arose from personal convictions, and we've looked at how we could together build a group position. It was nothing out of the ordinary, that debate on Qatar, where there were different viewpoints. Quite often we see a range of stances. It's the case for a number of files, and we trust in our colleagues that they're acting in good faith. Hence our disappointment. And we're going to have to try and find a way to prevent this happening again. But let me repeat something that I've already stated on a number of occasions. The vast majority of members of the European Parliament, across the whole of the House, of all political stripes, the vast majority of our staff, of our assistants, these are men and women working for the common good, working to defend European values and principles, and that's what we need to work to protect now as an institution.
Okay, we have one question here, question there, and then there.
Hi, this is Eram Kansoy from London-based Media Haber TV. Basically, it's a different topic, just to ice-breaking. I can see that you got very stressed with that topic. So, last 28 days, the Turkey is still bombing the Kurdish region, which is called Rojava. And there has been more than 60 villages has been bombed, and there is already 120 civilians has been killed. Also, there is a journalist, which was one of my friends, has been killed by Turkish jets. Still, the European Parliament doesn't give any reaction. There is nothing realistically, any approach against Turkey's war crimes as well as these unlawful attacks. So still Erdogan...
Could you come to your question, please?
Sorry?
Could you come to your question, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
one second. Still Erdogan is treating the Europe with refugees, which is very inhumane. He plays with the human life. My question is very clear, very to the point. Is Europe, is it very weak that cannot answer the Erdogan's situation? Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. Well, the European Parliament refuses any type of blackmail from Erdogan, from Orban. We refuse any type of blackmail. We can't be blackmailed. What's more, this week a debate is due to be held on this subject, on the indiscriminate attacks carried out by Turkey in these regions. And let me say once again something that I've said before. A country's interest is legitimate in defending its territory, its citizens, its country. But if action is carried out, it needs to be carried out according to the principles of international law, and that's not what's happening with Erdogan's government. Erdogan is not legitimate in preparing for an election campaign and using this indiscriminate violence. This is not in line with the principles of international law. So we are going to be standing firmly against his action there. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hi, Jurgen Gewert from the Belgian news agency Belga. If I understand your communique from yesterday evening correctly, Marc Tarabella is one of the members suspended from the group. What would it take for him to be reinstated, if ever? On what does that depend, that decision?
Pues depende de cuando finalice la...
Well, this depends on when the judicial inquiry finishes up. Depending on the outcome of that, well, that group will set out a position. Until then, though, there is no option for him to return to the group. Once again, once the police investigations have finished, depending on the outcome of that, we will make the corresponding decisions. Thank you.
Okay.
Oui, Fernanda Gabriel, da televisão portuguesa. Je voulais revenir sur la question.
Can I come back to the question of the shortcomings of your group? I think it was on the 24th of November
Défendait
that Kyla spoke defending labour laws in Qatar, labour conditions, and just think about how many people died working there. But, you know, why didn't you react then when she spoke out in that way? You know, she was defending things that you don't defend. Why didn't you react then?
Decir, en primer lugar, que la vicepresidenta...
Well, firstly, Vice President Kylie took part in this debate. As Vice President of the Parliament, she was in charge of the affairs from that region. And so, as part of that, she was on the speakers list. She was not speaking on behalf of the group. Any statements she may have made in this regard were personal in terms of her viewpoint. And while the circumstances are what they are, there were ideas about being able to communicate with her over the past week. Obviously, that was impossible because of what happened. But as president, I intended to be able to discuss this with her, to make clear that the statement she made was not in line with the group position on this. It was on the agenda for this week, but obviously that was a meeting that did not take place between her and myself.
I think there are no further questions. Then we managed to answer all your questions. Thank you very much. Have a good week. And then see you soon. There's one more question. Okay, final question. Please go ahead. 1 second. You have to put on your mic.
Is it open? Okay. Francisca De Candia, Rai Television. Do you expect much more names will come up from your group in the next days?
La investigación está abierta.
Well, the inquiry is underway. And in light of that, I don't have any information about this particular matter. We'll have to wait and see and see what happens with the investigation. Unfortunately, that's all I can say about that at this point. I simply don't have the information. I just don't know. That's why I can't tell you.
Very much, and have a good week.